Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone here to this wonderful second in the series of Real Chefs at Work with Adath Israel Women. My name is Ellen Melman, and currently I am chair of Adath Israel. One reminder, please put all your questions in the Q&A and we will answer them as we go along. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dave Bloom. Dave breathes, dreams, and fantasizes food. He fell in love with Mediterranean cuisine ever since he set foot there. After completing his culinary studies in Toronto and Israel, his passion became a career. Chef Dave's resume includes some of the top restaurants and catering firms in Tel Aviv, New York, and Toronto. He has numerous years of experience in Japanese, Mideastern, and French cuisine. His creations show the level of care and passion that have built within him over the years. Excuse me. According to Dave, he hasn't worked a day in his life. Dave grew up missing his sense of hearing. This gave him the gift of being able to smell much greater than many others. Every Sunday morning as a young boy, he knew what was for dinner once his mom started cooking and the air filled with wonderful aroma. With the help of the cochlear implant, he has climbed the culinary rankings and became executive chef at an early age. His first restaurant was open when he was 22 years old. Chef Dave holds a diverse culinary heritage that is both nurtured and natured. During his free time, he is usually found at local markets, checking freshly harvested products and discussing with the merchants about sustainable goods. His focus is local, seasonally inspired wholesome foods that is treated delicately and simple to bring out the wow factor that everyone seeks today when they eat. Take it away, Dave.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm David Bloom from ByDave Caterers, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys today on this beautiful, sunny summer afternoon. Together, we're going to be cooking a couple dishes and a couple of appetizers, some of my favorites. The first one is going to be a nice seared salmon tataki on a bed of soba noodle salad, which is great in the summer, winter as well, but special in the summer. And the other hors d'oeuvre we're going to do together is a mushroom dim sum. It sounds intimidating, but once you see how simple the folding of the dim sum, you'll love doing it and you'll do it plenty times. All right, so we're going to jump on it. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to get you all to take your piece of salmon, mix with a little bit of water. So first you'll take a little bit of boiling water, put a couple tablespoons of salt in there because you want to dissolve the salt. You take that warm, salty water and dump into a larger bowl of cold water. Make sure that water is cold, it's not warm. You place your salmon in there and you put that salmon, which is in the water, into the fridge for about an hour. This process will just start taking out all the yucky stuff in the salmon that we don't want to eat, and it's going to also clean the salmon and going to make it more healthy and more delicious. So once you take the salmon out of the water, you want to pat it really dry, and it's going to be ready to make your tataki. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my soba noodles cooked. So I've got over here a pot of water, which is almost boiling, and I've got here nice soba noodles. This is a full package. I'm probably only going to cook a half a package today. And soba noodles are really healthy alternative to your wheat noodle. Soba is actually a buckwheat. It doesn't taste like buckwheat or the grisha, a lot of people call it, but you can just use regular noodle if you're not a fan of soba noodles. In a few minutes, once my pot of water is boiling, I'm going to dump those in, let those cook for about 6 to 7 minutes, whatever it says on your package. In the meantime, we're going to make our seasoning, which is going to be a lot of the flavor, the main flavor for our salmon. So in this seasoning, we have a few spices. We're going to get all the spices mixed up. So we've got all of my ingredients here. You probably can't see a lot of it, but I'll just pick them up as we go. This is our sesame seeds. I'm using a mix of black and white. You can use just white sesame seeds. That's totally fine. I'm going to put about a couple tablespoons of that. The next ingredient, we're going to put our coriander seed. It doesn't taste like cilantro like we all know. It's just got a nice almost a shawarma-y flavor. This is coriander seed. I'm putting 1 tablespoon in there. Then we're going to put a little bit of chili flakes. This is optional. A lot of people are not a fan of spicy. Personally, I like it, so I'm going to put about a tablespoon in there. This is actually chili powder, not the flakes. You can use either. The next ingredient is going to be salt and pepper. Want to make sure it's well seasoned. This is going to be the seasoning for the fish. Same with our white pepper. And then we've got our paprika for a beautiful color. I'm also going to use about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of this. Beautiful red. And then we're going to have our ginger, which gives it a little bit of a Asian exotic flavor. That's about a half a teaspoon in there. And I'm going to give it a good mix. And we've got our seasoning for the salmon tataki ready to go. That's going to sit here on the side. And then we've got our water here boiling. So I'm going to take half the package of soba noodle. That's going to go right in. And we're going to give a mental countdown of about 6 to 7 minutes. Give it a little stir with our trusted tongs. Let's not forget that. And we're going to jump back to our salmon. So over here, I've got a plate of salmon. This is it's about just under a pound of salmon here. This is probably going to be good for about 4 to 5 appetizer plates. It's already been soaked in the salt water in the fridge. It's been dried, so we are ready to use it. We're going to put our glove on just to keep it sanitary. And to help the seed, the sesame crust, and the nice spices that we made to help it stick on the salmon, we're going to use a little bit of sesame oil. Now, if you want to use canola oil or olive oil, feel free to. You won't have that nice toasted, nutty sesame flavor. I'm going to give that a rub all around. I'm not seasoning this with salt and pepper because I've already got that in my spice blend. Take a minute. Hope everybody's able to see everything, and we're going to be able to answer all of your questions right at the end. Generous sprinkling of this. This is really helpful to be wearing gloves. I want to push that seasoning right into the salmon. I'm going to flip it over. Same idea on this side. Wonderful. That's already smelling really good. We'll press down. Coming along real well. Let's have a look at our soba noodle. We want it to boil. Well, it's already getting soft. This one cooks a little faster than your general pasta, so keep an eye on it. I'm going to remove my glove. That's gone. And this here is ready to be seared. While our soba noodle is cooking, I'm going to get my trusted pan. Let's use a hard pan over here. This is good because it's got a good crust. You can take the high heat. I want to make sure you don't use anything with plastic on it. Those tend to melt. I'm going to allow that to preheat to about a medium-high heat. It's going to be only about 6 to 7 seconds per side on the salmon. So you really want to make sure the heat is there until you can put your hand on and you have to move. It's not quite yet. Let's take a look at our soba noodles. Okay, this noodle's almost ready. We're just going to need to soften up a little bit more. In the meantime, why don't we all jump onto the soba noodle salad? We're going to start prepping our vegetables for the soba noodle salad. So inside the vegetables, we have a bowl here, which I'm going to chop it all up and dump it all in there. We're going to season it together afterwards. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a large English cucumber. This is huge, so we're going to take about half of this. We're going to cut the ends off. And I don't want to use the seeds in the cucumber, so I'm going to kind of cut the little rectangle of seeds in the cucumber straight out. So both sides. That's coming off, that's coming off. And the middle, which is this guy here, it's great to snack on, but I'm going to remove it for the salad. The next thing, I'm going to start slicing this cucumber as thin as my fingers allow me. So make sure without cutting yourself, cut these noodles, almost like noodles. You want these cucumbers to be like little skinny noodles. You can use your mandolin if you have a mandolin in the kitchen. It's a great time to pull out the mandolin. Give these guys a few more slices. The thinner the better. That looks just about right. They're really long. I'm going to give them a little cut in half. Nice little pieces of cucumber ready for the salad. That's going to go in our bowl. The next vegetable, a nice yellow pepper. Of course, you can use orange or red, but I find this color beautiful. I'm going to cut the sides off, get the meat. Please don't be chopping as fast as I am. Sometimes we cut our fingers. Nice and slow. I'm going to pile these up. I'm going to do a quick julienne on these guys. Nice and thin. Thinner the better, so it all comes together real nice with the soba noodles. Beautiful yellow. Perfect for the summer. That's going in with the cucumbers. And of course, given it spring and all those beautiful greens are jumping out of everywhere, we're going to take some snow peas. I love snow peas. They're crunchy, super healthy, got a nice, delicious pea flavor. We're going to put a few lying on top of each other like so. Hopefully you can see them. They're lying flat. And I'm going to hold it down with my fingers. I want to make little strips of these snow peas. So again, julienning my snow peas. Nice and thin, just like our noodles. Let's not forget the noodles in the pan that's heating up behind me. A few more of these snow peas. Gorgeous, I love this green. That's good. And that's it. Perfect. Snow peas joining the peppers and the cucumbers. Lovely. On the side, let's have a look at the pan and the soba noodles. Now, unlike spaghetti, you can't just grab one of these soba noodles and throw it on the wall to see if it's ready. You want to test one, make sure it's nice and soft, yet not too mushy. In the meantime, I've got my pan here. Let's try one, see how they look. All right. Perfect. Okay, this is coming off. Using your towel. I'll be right back while I strain the soba noodles. So give me just a moment. Lovely. Soba noodles are strained. I'm rinsing with just a little bit of cold water. So they stop the cooking process. I apologize, I'm on the screen. And lovely. Now we've got our bowl with our soba noodles and all the vegetables. We're going to put that on the side now just for a minute. Everybody's with me. Now we're going to jump in our pan. We're going to cook the salmon. It's going to be a beautiful sear. It's really important you hear that sear once you put the fish in the pan. I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of neutral oil. Today I'm using canola. Got a tiny little bit of smoke moving around, just what we want. I'm going to be putting the fish in the pan away from myself so I don't splash the oil all over myself, causing injury. To me, that is music. That's the sound I want to hear. Now, this is literally going to take about 6 to 7 seconds per side. Remember, we want to keep this really nice and rare in the middle because that quality of the salmon, you want that to shine. Taking a look, allow the fish to release itself from the pan. Don't start shaking it off with your towel or your tongs. A little stirring around, another couple seconds. If you're not a fan of raw meat, you can always cook this right through. You just won't have that tap heat experience. Flipping over, look at that beautiful crust there. That's going to seal in all those juices on the salmon, which is exactly what we want. Gorgeous. The house smells incredible. If you got your smellogram on, it's a good time to test it out. Lovely. That's going to jump back on my plate. And the fire is off. See, that was about 6, 7 seconds each side, more or less. Look at this beautiful color on the salmon. That's exactly what we want. The toasted sesame seed is going to be huge flavor. That's going back down. We're going to let it cool off. You want to let that cool off before you start slicing with your sharp knife. Back to our lovely salad. So we're going to finish up the salad. So we're going to combine all the ingredients. We have the snow peas, we've got the peppers, we've got the cucumber, the soba noodles. And now for a little bit of bite, I like to put in some chives. Chives come out around this time of the year. So abundant and so potent and so delicious. I'm going to give them a rough chop. I don't want them tiny, tiny pieces, about ½ an inch or so each piece. Rough chop going on here. If you're not a fan of chives, you can always use very thinly sliced red onion or white onion or shallots. That salad's coming together real nice. Now we're going to make a quick dressing for the salad. Very good. The dressing basically involves white miso, which you can find in your local grocery store, likely in the Asian aisle. Lots of miso options there these days. This here is a nice white miso. It's a very salty taste. A lot of people have miso soup when they have sushi. We actually use miso paste for a lot of other things in the kitchen as well. So I'm putting about a tablespoon of that in here. Lovely. About 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can use less sodium soy sauce, which is available these days as well, if you prefer. And then we're going to throw in our white pepper. I prefer white pepper, kind of dissolves nicer in this dressings. I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of sesame oil again. This is going to be huge flavor for the salad. I'm going to put a little bit of ginger powder in there. You can use fresh grated ginger if you prefer. I love the flavor of ginger in dressings. I'm just going to make sure all my ingredients are in. We've got a little rice vinegar. That's going to be our little punch for the dressing. Rice vinegar is a lot more neutral than your white vinegar or your balsamic vinegar. This is fantastic for dressings. Not too sharp, just right. I use a lot of rice vinegar with different dressings, Chinese food. Big fan of Chinese food. Give this a good mix. You're going to want to use a whisk for this because that miso won't break with just a spoon or a fork. A whisk is really handy with this. Once all these ingredients are mixed in, I'm going to finish it with some olive oil. When you're adding olive oil to a dressing, you really want to make sure you're drizzling it slowly. Like so. So I use my olive oil just in front of me here. I use a little squeezy bottle. It makes the life a lot easier. Slowly drizzling about 2 tablespoons in there just to finish off this dressing. You may have noticed I've not put salt in here because that miso and that soy, that's going to be my salty component for the salad. One final stir. I've got my nice soba noodle salad here with all the vegetables in there. The dressing in here, straight in there. That goes on the side. Now you can use tongs or you can use gloves. Personally, I like to use gloves. I want to make sure everything is well combined. And I'm going to get my plating ready at this point. I'm going to grab my nice dish over there. Everything is nice and well combined in this salad. Let's have a look at the salad here before I plate it. Maybe try this camera here. Lovely, beautiful soba noodle salad, perfect for the summer. You can throw in any vegetables you want in this. Just make sure it's nice and crunchy to contrast that beautiful soba noodle. So at the time of plating, I'll bring up a beautiful dish like so. I'm going to place a bunch of my soba noodle in the very center of the salad. Remember, everybody these days is eating with their eyes first. So it has to look absolutely exquisite. Lovely. About a portion, I would say about a cup or so of this. Once I've got my nice salad plated, just on top of that is going to be our fish. Before I move forward, I'm going to get my beautiful fish that we seared just a few minutes ago. It's all cooled off and ready to have sliced. Remember, you want the sharpest knife in your kitchen, so pull out that dangerous one. The side, I'm going to get a glove on so I keep everything sanitary. All right, this is the big drum roll. Let's take a look. Knife. Just look at that color. That's exactly what you want. You want nice and cooked on the outside, nice and pink on the center. I'm going to continue slicing as thin as my life allows. Try keeping it intact. You can use a nice thick piece of the fish. It's always better. Lovely. I'm going to put my plate right up here so you can all see me plating. I like to fan out the pieces of fish so they have a nice view of the fish on top of the soba noodle salad. Lovely. Look at that nice medium rare salmon. Now, if you guys are a fan of tuna, you can do this exact same recipe with tuna. A little bit more gourmet, more luxurious. But I love a good salmon. This salmon is actually from Norway, so they prepare very, very good quality salmon. Once that's plated, I'm simply going to garnish the plate with a little bit more of the sesame seeds, give it a little Asian flair. A couple of our nice and pretty chives. Ladies and gentlemen, salmon tataki on a bed of soba noodle salad, all done in less than 10 minutes, as you are with me. I encourage you guys to try this in your next posting. I'm going to leave this on the side here. Y'all can take a good look at it later on. Shortly.
Hi, Dave.
Now I'm going to move to
Hi, Dave. It's Randy Fine. I'm one of the co-chairs of Women of Addis. And
Hello.
I thought we'll take some questions now on the fish dish,
Fantastic.
and then we can do the mushrooms after.
Brilliant.
So let's see the questions that we've got in the chat. We've got, what kind of salmon do you prefer? Organic, wild, Atlantic, etc.?
Right, so if you're coming to salmon, when you're serving it on the rare side, you want to use something, I wouldn't use I wouldn't use wild for anything that's on the rare side. I would use an Atlantic or Pacific. And of course, if you're going to cook your salmon right through, feel free to use wild salmon or organic or any of the other salmons. But avoid using wild if you're going to do raw salmon tataki.
Okay. Let me see what else. What number on the element dial is medium high heat? If you have numbers instead of the names of the heat, which one is medium high?
The heat, so, and personally, when you have 1 to 10, you want to go for about an 8. Make sure you got an 8. Yeah, don't go number 10. That'll just smoke up the whole kitchen.
Okay. Where do we find these soba noodles?
So soba noodles is widely available. I've been to No Frills, I've been to Sobeys, I've seen them on the shelves there. You want to go in the Asian aisle. A lot of times where you find your rice noodles, it'll be right next to that section.
Okay. Where can I find a good pan to sear? What's the best kind of pan? Stainless steel, or what do you recommend?
Well, if you want to do a good sear, I went for the Tefal. The Tefal has a good non-stick coating on it, and it's got a great, long life on it. Of course, I think it comes with a 10-year warranty, if I'm not mistaken. And you don't want to use, those cheap bendable pans because that won't, get to the high heat that you need it at.
Okay. And I think we've got a couple more. Let me see where we are. Is the oil toasted sesame oil?
Yes, it's toasted sesame oil. That's the one I've used here. This one is, again, available at most grocery stores, and it's a brown hue oil. So it's a nice, rich, a little bit goes a long way.
Okay. And one more, I think you already mentioned, somebody's asking, could you use tuna instead of salmon?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you're
Yeah,
absolutely
most
right.
certainly, yeah. Tuna is great. Again, keep it less than 6-7 seconds per side. Keep that nice red in the center of the tuna.
Great. And then somebody just recommended you, how wonderful you are. What a nice person.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, so we're on to number 2.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic. Good jump. I wish I could have all of you here to taste this beautiful soba noodle salad with me, but hopefully after COVID we'll jump on that together. Jumping on to the next appetizer is a little bit intimidating. It's a dim sum. So this is where the little fingers come in handy. Generally, I'm going to clean up this area super quick before I get onto the next. Brilliant. And we have a clean station. Very important to use the clean station. All right, so this is our mushroom dim sum. The first thing I'm going to do is get our pan, which is going to cook our, we're going to grab the pan. Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. I think we're about ready. So this dish over here has very few ingredients. It's literally just got some onions, some mushrooms, and a couple of seasonings in there. We are going to start with our onion. I want to start sauteing this simple white onion. That's going to be the base of our flavors on this mushroom dim sum. Once we've got the onion peeled, we're going to thinly slice it. Again, as thin as your fingers and your knife allows. I'm going to stop a moment, go back to my pan. I want to work with a preheated pan. Okay, that's working. Good news. Okay, back to the onion, thinly sliced. So once the final product is done, the onion is almost translucent. You can't even see it. Slicing this guy up. I'm wearing contacts, which is why I'm not crying. If I was wearing glasses without contacts, I would be sobbing. Great. That is ready. This is moving to the side. Right now, I've got some beautiful cremini mushrooms over here. These are like brown, white button mushrooms. They have a little bit of a deeper flavor and more earthy. So I love using these whenever I can. These have been rinsed and washed and dried up a little bit. Again, these have to be roughly chopped. You can slice them, you can quarter them, however you like, because at the very final product is going to be really almost like little pieces of caviar of mushroom. Let's bang this out. A couple more. Please do not try this at home. Nice and slow. Lovely. This is my little home knife, my little baby. At work, we used the 10-inch big boys. A couple more of these. got our cremini done. Now we're gonna get our shiitake. The shiitake mushroom is a really rich, earthy mushroom. Now these guys have a little bottom here, the stem. You cannot use the stem of these mushrooms, so each stem needs to be snipped off and either disposed or used in your stock. It's very tasty. You can use in your stock, boil it up with some water and vegetables, and then dispose it afterwards. So basically what we got here left is caps of the shiitake. Once I've got all my stems removed, then we can start slicing the caps. And the shiitake is a great gourmet mushroom. It screams Japanese flavors, Korean flavors, lots of delicious Asian flavors. All right, we're gonna pile them up a little on top of each other, like little kippas, and thinly sliced. Beautiful. Everything is slicing together. These two mushrooms are gonna cook together, no problem. First things first, we're gonna get our onions sauteing first. So on this side of the pan, on this side of the board, which you can just pick up, is my onions, and then here I got my sliced mushrooms. Moving over into my pan, we've got this pan. Oh, that's hot, perfect. I'm grabbing a neutral oil like canola, a couple teaspoons in there, and I'm simply sliding. See that sound? That's my music. I got a soundtrack with lots of different sears in my car. It's great. People think I'm crazy. All right, a little saucy. This should take a couple minutes. Lovely, everything's breaking up. That's what you want. And as you put your mushrooms in, it's probably going to start releasing a lot of liquid, which is totally fine. After the liquids are released, it's going to start evaporating and it's going to come out with a beautiful mushroom base. A couple more sautés. You want to give this about a minute on its own. Lovely. You can use this with a spoon. You don't have to start throwing your onions around the kitchen. That's it. Gorgeous. I love going to Chinatown, walking in the streets over there, especially in Kensington Market in the summer. You go into the window over there with those nice old Asian ladies making those dim sum. I can stand there watching for hours. Okay, our onion is translucent. Now we're bringing our mushrooms right to the pan. Gorgeous. Okay, that's just about right. That pan looks like it's completely piling over with mushrooms, but when this is done, it's going to be about 50% of this gone. Allow the heat to do its work. It's going to bring all those mushrooms down. Over the last COVID, break we've all had, since I've not been doing large parties, I've been doing mostly smaller parties, private chefing services, Shabbat services, and all that. I've had a lot of time to, learn about foods that I haven't had time to learn before. So I told my wife, I want to learn how to make dim sum. And I did a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of Googling. And then finally, after a couple of weeks, I figured out how to make dim sum. And I was so proud of myself, something I would have never done had we not had our COVID break. Just give a little toss. Nice. We just want that mushroom to cook down. At this point, I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and the salt is actually going to help the mushrooms release some of its moisture. It's going to speed up the process a touch. Again, use your spoon if you don't want to be tossing your food around the stove. Dim sum, mushroom dim sum. Put it all together. A lot of times on my Shabbat menu, I put dim sum on the menu, so you can always find my Shabbat menu, which comes out every Tuesday morning at www.bydave.ca, and you can just click on the weekend menu, and you get a beautiful load of menu, which is rotating each and every week. I'm trying to keep those menus very seasonal, very local. Summertime, we get a lot of stone fruits and lots of peaches and lots of great summer Ontario produce. I encourage you to cook with lots of Ontario produce when you can. All right, we're down about 50%. Now we're going to crank up the heat. We're just done. That's going to continue reducing. While that's cooking, I want to show you over here. This is our package of wonton wrappers. Again, you can find these in most of your grocery stores. In the freezer department, these will be found. I allow this to defrost in the fridge overnight. which today we have a perfect package of dim sum wrappers. So when you're not using it straight away, you want to keep it covered because these things tend to dry quick. So I'm gonna just take one out to show you kind of what it looks like. Beautiful skinny little round papers. So you basically, and when we get to that folding part, we're gonna put it on our hand, we're gonna put our filling in here, a little bit of water around the edges. I'll show you exactly how to do that. I'm just gonna keep it covered because I don't want it to dry out until we're ready to use it. Almost there. How are these mushrooms? Just in case y'all missed this gorgeous soba noodle salad with a nice salmon tataki. Just want to make sure y'all are nice and hungry over there. I'm gonna definitely be enjoying this for lunch later on. Nice. Y'all see this mushroom, how it's almost reduced? Remember before, it's a huge pile of fresh mushrooms. Now we've got a reduced pile of mushrooms here. I will give it another minute on the fire. I've got everything in there. Lovely. So right before the mushrooms are complete sauteed, I'm going to take some chives. Chives go great with sauteed mushrooms. But the thing about the chives, I'm going to put them just at the end so they stay fresh, nice and green. So as you bite into it, you'll see all those nice green flakes. A little chop chop. If you don't have chives, you can always use green onion. In fact, you can use any herb of your choice. Okay, these mushrooms are just about done. I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of soy sauce into our mushroom mixture. Right. I'm going to turn off the fire and I'm going to add my chives with my knife. All the chives dropping right in. Wow, this house is smelling really good so far. Hard to resist snacking now. Great. That is complete. I am going to transfer it into a bowl so it can cool off a moment. Oh, nice and hot. The trick with the dim sum is you want to work with a cold filling. So what I'm going to do with this mushroom filling here, I'm actually going to pop it into my freezer for about 3 minutes. That is literally going to shock my mushroom mixture and it's going to cool it off super quick. Allow me to return 1 second. Oh. And if we have the luxury of time, you allow it to relax at room temperature on the counter for about an hour or two. What we got in the freezer, which is just fine, just giving it a shock to get that steam out of there because it's super hot right now. So we've got our mise en place or our assembly. We have a little bit of a bowl with water. We have our plate that we're going to put our complete dim sum straight on. And of course, we have our wrappers. Excellent, gorgeous, nice, skinny wrappers. The thing about dim sum, what I love about it is the wrapper is so thin. So really, it's the filling that's the star of the bite. And you know, where you have barecas or pitas already, the wrapper or the vehicle, the holder is so thick, and it's all about the bareca wrapper, the dough or whatnot. And we're gonna go back and check our mushroom mixture. Ooh. Which has cooled off just slightly. All right, jumping into the action. All of our mise en place is here. Everything needs to be here so we don't walk away in the middle of our assembly. We got a little spoon for our mushrooms. And we take our first dim sum. Again, on our finger, I'm taking my other hand, one of my fingers, tap it into the water, a light brush around the circle, the edges. I hope you all can see something, the edges of this wrapper. Okay, and that's ready. We're gonna put a little dollop. Now, when they say less is more, when it comes to this, it's a real thing. Just a tiny bit of the filling, just in the center. I'm folding it over to close. Now I've got a half a moon. I'm gonna come with you guys here. Got my half moon here. I'm going to tighten the edges, tighten the center. So I'm holding at the top. Then if you can kind of see what I'm doing here, I'm folding it inside. See what's going on here? Squeeze, fold, squeeze, fold, squeeze. This side is complete. Jumping to the next side, same idea. Fold, squeeze, fold, squeeze, fold, squeeze. Boom. Where are you? There you are. Hey, look at that gorgeous guy. Nice little mushroom dim sum. Fantastic. That is one happy bite right there. We're going to tighten the top just a little bit, and that goes on my plate. I'm going to make these about a dozen more times so y'all can watch. Because when they say, I bet you can't eat one, this really applies to this dish here. A little bit around the edges, edges, nice and wet. That's our sealing liquid, so that's going to help it stay sealed. Tiny little bit of your mushroom mixture in here. Coming up again. Woo. That's in and folding over. Holding it from the top, nice and tight. And the sides, fold, squeeze, fold, squeeze, fold, squeeze, bang. Next side. Same idea. Y'all can see. Oh. Fold, squeeze, fold, squeeze, fold. Now we're tightening the top just a bit. Look at that little dim sum. He says, steam me and eat me. Here we are. Nice dim sum. Now I'm going to show you another type of fold, which is a tiny little bit easier. It's almost an Italian way, which I think they might call it cannoli or something. But we're going to wet the edges again. If you don't want to jump onto this style, we're going to put a tiny bit of the filling. Gorgeous mushrooms. Coming up to show y'all. Folding at the top, like so. Tightening the whole thing simply. Literally almost like a skinny pierogi, if you would. Okay, now a little more water. Tap, tap on one end. And I'm just simply going to fold this over. You all seen this in Italian restaurants, possibly? Nice little cannolis. That's another option of making these beautiful dim sum. The wonderful thing about these dim sum is during quieter times, we get the staff all lined up and we're all together. We're all making dim sum. We get sheets and sheets full of dim sum, and we cover them and we freeze them. And they freeze excellent, which is why when you go to the grocery store, you see in the non-kosher Asian department is full of frozen dim sum. It's a huge, huge thing over there in Asia, frozen dim sum. So these freeze phenomenally. Once you've got them all on your plate, a little saran wrap on it into the freezer, and they last up to 3 months in the freezer. Once again, we're going to fold over. I'm just going to do a couple more here so we can cook it all up together. How are we doing with timing? Great. Should be a couple more minutes. All right, a couple more, and then we get a few going on our pan. We want to use a non-stick pan for this dish. It's really important. Your regular omelet pan or your chicken searing pan is not going to work. You want a non-stick for this one. If you can use a much colder filling, it's always better. Especially if you're going to be freezing and using it for another time, you want to make sure your filling is absolutely cold. These, all right. I can do this for hours with some good music in the background, glass of red wine. What more you need? A couple more before we move to the cooking process. This probably cooks in about, especially since we're using fresh dim sum, probably going to cook in about 2-3 minutes in our steam. You don't need a fancy steamer in your house. You can just use your pan with a lid, which we're going to create the steam inside the pan itself. Squeezing the top, make sure it all seals up. I think maybe just one more. I'll do this one in front of the camera again so you can all follow me step by step. And if you want even a slower, more clearer demonstration, feel free to check out the YouTube dim sum making videos. They're really helpful. Folding, squeeze, folding, squeeze, other side, fold, squeeze, nice and tight on the top. Bang. All right. I'm going super slow speed compared to those guys who've done this for years. They can knock out a couple hundred of these in a few minutes. The more you do, the faster and better you'll get. And this, I think, will be the last one that will move to the actual cooking of it. Gorgeous. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And if you follow me to our cooking station, move these up there. This is a smaller, very non-stick pan. We're gonna get that on high heat. Lovely, we got our dim sum ready, our pan is ready. Make sure everything's working. We have to have a little bit of water on hand, tiny bit of neutral oil. While we're gonna wait for this to heat up, I think we're gonna go right ahead and make our ponzu dip, which is a very popular dip, a ponzu dip for our dim sum. Great, and we've got about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce here. I'm gonna eye this out, you can use a tablespoon. I got 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, 1 tablespoon of honey. I squeeze that. Half a teaspoon of sesame oil. We're gonna get a lime squeeze in there. Ponzu sauce is a popular Asian sauce that's traditionally used with yuzu lemons. Yuzu lemons are not very available around here, so I like to substitute it with lime. And squeeze, squeeze. Last thing that's going in there is our, just a nice pinch of the sesame seeds. And then we're gonna give this a little stir. Make sure the honey gets nicely dissolved. Good looking sauce right there. Okay, we're gonna put that on the side just to wait for our dim sum when they're ready. Follow me. All right, neutral oil, hot pan, tiny drop of oil. Now, why am I putting neutral oil here when we're steaming? Because I actually want to brown the bottom of those nice dim sum. So we're gonna pick up the dim sum from the top, kind of like a handle. We're gonna simply place them in our non-stick pan. Now you can hear the sizzling here a little bit. That's what you want. Everybody goes in roughly the same time. I'm gonna take our little Italian guy here. There's another style folding. You can throw that right in, back down. You want to have a zoom in on the frying of our dim sum over here. Come take a look. I want to fry them up just so the bottom gets a little bit brown. I'm going to show you what the bottom should look like in a sec. Look at that. That's perfect. See, that's what you want. At this stage, you want to stand back a little bit, grab your water, which is going to right away create the steaming effect. The frying will stop and it starts steaming. Listen. Really quick, I want to cover it up to trap that steam in there. So if that's working, while that's cooking, I would say about a couple of minutes since it's very fresh. If it was a frozen dim sum, you want to go at least 10, 12 minutes while the steaming is cooking the insides. Almost there. Always great to do these demos right after you're cleaning. You just finished the kitchen, right? Lovely, that's steaming. I'm starting to smell this mushroom and sesame oil aromas going on in this kitchen. Shouldn't take another minute. You want to make sure almost all the water, I'm using a glass top here. That way I can see all the water, where we are with the water. If you find that your water is evaporating too fast, add a little more water. You want to keep that steaming action going. Stir. Lovely. Okay, we're going to start plating it. What I actually like to do is I like to put some sesame seeds at the bottom of the plate. Because what happens is all this dim sum, which goes right on and picks up with a nice crunch of those sesame seeds. All that steam just trapped in there. I think that should do. Lovely. Now I've got a little water left in here. I'm going to carefully pick them up straight onto the plate. Look at those so hot and steamy. That first bite just explodes with juice. Those mushrooms. Wow. Ooh. More. Lovely. And for our nice little mixture of sauce, it's a ponzu sauce here. We put that straight on the plate, tucked in. Have a look at that now. This is one of my favorite appetizers. We have a nice steamed mushroom dim sum with a ponzu zip. Let's have a tiny little taste. Make sure it's good. Good job, right? Soy sauce, sesame, vinegar. Oh, working so well.
Okay, Dave, that was amazing. So a couple of people have suggested you need your own show.
Let's do it. Gordon Ramsay, watch out.
That's right. Okay, here's some questions for you. They kind of are in a couple of categories.
Nice.
One is about knives. What kind of knife do you use?
Personally, I use a shun knives, S-H-U-N, shun knives. They're Japanese. I've got one this size. I've got one a little larger and a little smaller. They're very strong knives. They're Japanese made, so they've got lots of layers of metal in there, and they just stay sharp for a long time.
Great. Okay. And then we go to pans. What kind of pans? I know we talked about this a little bit before. How do you know if your old Tefal pan is worn out?
So you'll start seeing on the sides of the pans almost rust. That's the pan. The coating itself is starting to peel off. That means it's time to get a new pan. So usually the outside edge of the pan is the first thing that starts to wear out, and you'll know it's time to get a new pan before the entire thing rusts out.
Okay. Then we go to onions. How do you store onions? This says mine go mushy when I put them in the fridge.
Right. So I keep my onions in the fridge only because in the house, the temperature can change. The idea with onions is to keep the controlled temperature, not going up and down too much. At my kitchen at work in Charlottesville, where we're based out of, we actually get our 50-pound bags of onions, and those stay in room temperature because it's it's controlled temperature over there. So I'm not worried about them. If you plan to keep onions in your fridge for 6 months, 8 months, you will start to see, green things starting to grow out of it. Try to avoid using those.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody's asking, are there any free samples? I think that's hard.
Come on over, please.
Somebody else said, I've already eaten my lunch, but I'm hungry all over again.
Good.
Okay.
I did my job. Okay.
What is the best way to clean mushrooms?
So that's a great question, actually. So if you have mushrooms that the fins, the inside, they're called the gills or the fins, if they're exposed, such as portobello mushrooms or shiitake mushrooms, which we use today, you want to use a brush. Don't get them soaked in water, because what they're going to drink all the water, and your mushrooms are going to be full of water. If you have button mushrooms or cremini mushrooms, you can see in the bottom, the fins are completely closed. So those are great. You can get them soaked in water, give them a rinse, but just don't leave them in water over time. Just, clean them up in your bowl of water, take them out, strain the water, because what happens, all the dirt from the mushroom goes to the bottom of the bowl. So make sure you take your mushrooms out of the water, pour it out, and do that a couple times for, regular cremini or button mushrooms.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have a couple more. Oh boy. Okay, can you repeat the name of the wrappers and where you purchased them?
Absolutely. So these are dim sum wrappers. These are actually called, gyoza. These are from Wings Company, and these are called the gyoza wrappers. I think I picked these up at Sobeys last week, so they're great. Always have them in your freezer. Great.
Okay. Can you please repeat how to get your Shabbat menus? I think you're going to be busy.
Of course. So you just check out www.bydave.ca, BYDAVE.ca. And as soon as you open the website, you'll see a pop-up. It'll say, I believe, weekend menu or Shabbat menu. And then you can actually place your order right on the website. So it's super user-friendly, almost like making an Uber orders Eats per se. And should be very, if there's any questions about the menu or any difficulty order, you'll see an email on the website. Just write him a line and you'll get a response super quick.
Great. Okay, I think that's it, unless anybody has any more questions.
Yeah, so just make sure you, if you want to check out our food, make sure you check out Instagram at eatbydave.ca. At eatbydave. We can check out our Facebook and always our website.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn you over to Ellen.
Let's do it.
Dave, thanks so much for these wonderful recipes.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
I'm sitting here thinking we called them appetizers, but to me, this is my main course. I mean, this is
Okay.
amazing.
Good
Um,
news.
my family and I have had many of Dave's dishes, and I'm glad he told you where to reach him because it's just phenomenal, and they've been outstanding. What can I tell you?
Wonderful. Glad you enjoyed.
Thank you. So we hope everybody's enjoyed this session. Contact Dave for more information and to get his menus. And we look forward to welcoming everyone to our third cooking demonstration that will be on Wednesday, June the 23rd at 1 p.m. Invite
Awesome.
family and
Have a
friends.
wonderful week. Thanks for including us. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. And it's been recorded, as we said, so you will be able to pick up Dave if you missed something to see how he does all his little, you make it look so easy, I have to tell you.
Okay.
So you'll be able to pick it up there on the Addith Israel YouTube. And one correction, when I introduced myself, I said that I'm chair. I am chair of the catering committee at Addith Israel. So just an FYI. Anyways, again, Dave, thanks so much. And thanks
Thanks
everyone.
again. Hope to see you all soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.